Hi guys, it's Legionero back with another video, and today I want to try and make this Kwik Sew 4165. All right, this is not going to be a tutorial. It's just going to be me making the bag because I tried making this bag once before and it was an epic fail. And I want to try it again. So again, won't be a tutorial per se. Well, not even per se. It won't be a tutorial. It'll just be me making the bag and seeing if I could actually put it together this time. So I want to take you all on this journey with me, and hopefully it works out. Fingers crossed. Welcome to all of my new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. I am trying to do more recording. I said in a video a while ago, I had lost my sojo. I had no motivation. My creativity was stifled. So my mom came and we fixed up my sewing room. So eventually I want to do a tour of my sewing room so you can see what it looks like. I wish I had did a before picture, but I didn't. So that kind of sucks. So you can't really see what it looked like before we made all the changes, but I like it. It's coming together. I still have some things that need a home because I don't want it to look messy in here, but I do have a few things that I still need to find a home for. My room is not that big, but I do appreciate having it because I know about the sewing in the dining rooms and the living rooms and the kitchen tables and the everywhere in the bedrooms and stuff. As a matter of fact, I still have my sewing machines in my bedroom. I have two desks in my bedroom, so I have my other sewing machines and my sergers in there. But sewing bags on this baby here. But anyway, that's not why you came here. You came here because you want to watch me make this Kwik Sew pattern. So let's get to it. All right, so this is Kwik Sew 4165, a fanny pack. And it has 5 pattern pieces. You got piece number 1, which is your front piece. You got piece number 2, which is your back piece. Oh, sorry. And you are cutting 2, and 1 has to be interfaced with fusible fleece. And then piece number 2, you are cutting 2 pieces, and 1 is interfaced with fusible fleece. The 2 pieces you cut is your main fabric and your lining fabric, and then the interfacing. Piece number 3 is the top, and again you cut out one of your main fabric and one of your lining pieces. If you want to, you can do a contrasting piece for the top. Piece number 4, I've lost my pattern piece, but it is the band. So I had to make sure I wrote down my measurements. Not quite sure what happened to my pattern piece, but it's the band. And you cut 2. One of your main fabric and one of your lining, and 1 is interfaced with fusible fleece. And then piece number 5, which is your gusset. You can also cut this out of contrasting fabric if you wanted to, but you cut 2 pieces and one of them is interfaced with fusible fleece. You need an 11-inch zipper. I had a 12-inch. This is what I had on hand. You're going to need some webbing or whatever you choose to use for your waist strap. All right. And it's a yard and a half of 1 inch you're going to need. You're also going to need your parachute clip and your slide adjuster, and that's it. So let's see if I can try to interpret these directions. This should be an interesting journey. So first thing you need to do is to stay stitch your gusset, all right? So you take your gusset over to the sewing machine and you're going to stay stitch, meaning you're using the longest stitch on your sewing machine and you're just going to sew down both sides. All right. After you do that, you're going to take your front piece and your gusset, and with right sides facing, you're going to sew your gusset to your front piece. All right, so I'm going to go stay stitch and then I will be back to pin my gusset, which is piece number 5, around my front piece, which is piece number 1. All right. So you should have made some snips on both of these pieces. So line up your snips, right sides facing, and pin. And you're going to pin your gusset all the way around piece number 1. And you may have to cut some slits in your gusset just to kind of make it fit. I'm just gonna make some snips here. Don't make them too big. Just so it'll stretch around that curve. Alright, so once you have it pinned, you're going to sew around. Let me see if I can find the seam allowance on here. Seam allowance is 1/2 inch. Alright. And you also are going to do the lining piece number 1 and gusset piece the same way. So you'll pin and sew the lining pieces as well. So piece number 1 and number 5 of your lining. Okay, so the next step says if your zipper is longer than 10 inches to cut your zipper down. So I cut my zipper down. And you need to take the zipper, and this is the front and the gusset that you just sewed together. Place your zipper down. Make sure it's centered. And your zipper pull is facing the right side of the fabric. And you're supposed to take it to the sewing machine and sew down this edge and then add the lining. But I'm going to go ahead and add the lining to the other side now, just to kind of save time. So make sure the zipper is facing the right side of the fabric. Make sure it's centered over the fabric. And then I'm going to lay my lining on top. Make sure it's lined up properly. Make sure it's not wonky. So let me clip first. That way the zipper will stay in place. But if you want to, you can take it to the sewing machine and do this part first. Sew this part first and then add the lining afterwards. And the lining and the main bag will be right sides facing. But I'm going to do mine at the same time. So, and once you sew both sides to the zipper, you're going to flip it kind of like you do a clutch bag, and then press it together, and then you're going to line everything up here like this after it's sewn and pressed. And then you're just going to sew all the way around to hold the two pieces in place. All right, but let's do this part first. All right, so now that we got that part done, the front and the gusset, now let's take your piece number 4, which is your band, and piece number 3, which is your top. So what you're going to do with the band, you are going to stay stitch, and you're going to stay stitch from, so you'll stay stitch your band, but you're only stay stitching on one edge. All right, and after you stay stitch, you go ahead and grab your top piece, and you're going to pin it together just like you did the gusset and the front piece. So you'll pin it all the way around, but I'll show you this. You'll pin it all the way around after you stay stitch. Right, so go ahead and pin. This one doesn't have the notches in it, so I'm going to start pinning from here. So I'm going to pin that side, and then I'm going to pin this side, and that is right sides facing. Right, and kind of stretch it out a little bit so I can find the center. You pin all the way around, just like you did the gusset in the front piece. Pin all the way around, and then you'll sew all the way around at a 1/2 inch. And again, if you need to cut some snips to get around that curve, cut some snips in your band piece, not your front piece, so it can get around that curve. Right, and you do the lining, band, and top the same way. Pin it together the same way. Once you get both pinned, take it to the sewing machine and sew around that edge. Okay, so have the lining and the main piece attached to one side of the zipper. So I'm going to set this aside. And I went ahead and sewed the band and the top together for the main pieces, but I had to pull out my trusty old seam ripper because there's 2 dots on your pattern piece and you're only supposed to sew from dot to dot. So I had to pull out my trusty old seam ripper and undo that. What you're going to do next, you're going to attach it to the other side of the zipper. So the band, which was your straight piece, not your curved piece, which is your top, you're going to place it on the other side of the zipper, right, and sew it to the other side of the zipper, just like you did the front and the gusset, right? So I'm going to go ahead and clip that part. So again, you're clipping the band part, not the curved part, the band part, all right, to the other side of the zipper. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Instead of doing it one at a time, like I clip this and then sew and then clip the lining and sew, I'm just going to clip the lining on the other side of the zipper once I get the lining sewed together. And then I'll just sew down this edge. I seem to be doing a lot better this time than I did the first time I tried to make this. I just gave up, really. Be honest, I just gave up. But it's not as hard as I made it seem to myself. Alright, so I got that pin. I'm going to sew the lining part of the band and the top, and then I'm going to add that to this side of the zipper. Alright. Oh, I think I forgot to show you the front and the gusset. Once you get it sewed to the zipper properly, then you have to line up both the main piece and the lining piece, and you have to sew all the way around to hold the two pieces together so they don't shift. And I'm going to do that to the band in the top once I get the lining and the main sewn to the zipper. I hope I am making sense. I didn't want to call this a tutorial and I'm all over the place pretty much. Alright, so this is what you should have so far. One thing I would probably do the next time I make this is when I sew the gusset and then sew everything to the zipper, I'll probably go back and top stitch these areas because they look a little bulky. You do need to press. I'm not pressing, but you do need to press. I'm just, doing the video, so I'm not taking the time to stop and press. But top stitching, I think, will help make these bulky seams look better. Alright, so set that aside. And you got piece number 2. And make sure you mark your 2 dots on piece number 2. Piece number 2 is your back. And grab your webbing. And you need to cut 2 pieces. You need to cut a 6-inch piece. And you need to cut a 39-inch piece. Alright, so you're going to grab your back. And you're going to take the longer strap piece and you're going to place it in between the dots on the left hand side. So I'm going to turn it this way so I'll make sure I have it on my left hand side. So you got 2 dots here, so just place it here on the left hand side in between the 2 dots. And then you're going to take the shorter one and you want to put it on the right side in between the 2 dots. And you'll take it to the sewing machine. My webbing is a little smaller than 1 inch, but yours should be 1 inch. So take it to the sewing machine and then sew down those edges. Alright, so the next thing you're going to do, grab your front piece, open up your zipper, and you need to, alright, so you need to take the back piece with your straps. Make sure your straps are tucked out of the way. And you're going to pin it to your front piece. Hopefully that will hold the strap out of the way. So I put some pins to kind of hold the strap out of the way. So the right side's facing, you're going to pin the back to the front. Right? I know this looks kind of funny. Make sure your zipper is open. Once you have it pinned all the way around, take it to the sewing machine and sew all the way around. I'm not going to do like I did last time and go ahead and add the lining, because when you sew the lining, you have to leave an opening in the lining. You should have a slit down here on the back and the front, so line up your slits. All right, so I'm just going to keep pinning. All right, so when you do this, make sure the back is pinned to the front, and then after you sew it, you take the lining piece and pin to the other side, right? You should see the back of your zipper here. You pin the lining to the other side, but when you sew around the lining, make sure you leave an opening in your lining. Trying to beat the battery life on my camera. That's why I'm telling you these things ahead of time. So just in case my battery runs out, you'll know what I'm doing next. And I didn't have to cut any snips around the curve, so that's a good thing. That means I sewed it right from the beginning. Yay! Right, so sew all the way around, then flip this over and pin the lining piece the same way, but leave an opening in the lining when you sew around the lining. Leave it in the bottom. All right. Alright, so this is what it looks like when you pin the lining to the other side of the bag. You might have to do some tucking and pulling and different things to get it together, but this is what it looks like. And this is the back that's sewn, that you just sewed together. This is the lining on the other side. And make sure to leave an opening. I'm going to remove this pin here to leave an opening in the bottom. I'm going to sew around. Alright, so the lining is sewed. And what I did, I just used the back piece as a guide and just tried to use that line to sew the lining. Right, so now it says turn the lining right side out and press. I might not make my opening big enough. The lesson here, make sure you leave your lining, leave a big enough opening in your lining. I do that all the time. You can hand stitch it, or you can, I'm just going to turn this seam allowance down. It's really thick, but I'm just going to turn this seam allowance down, and I'm just going to sew it closed. Because it says fold under the edges and sew it closed. And then once you do that, you turn your bag to the right side, and then it's time to add the hardware. So yep, I just folded in those edges and stitched. So through your zipper part, open your zipper up, turn your bag to the right side. Yeah, I would definitely top stitch those areas next time I make this. To make it look a little bit neater. Pressing would help as well, but again, I try to skip certain things in the video to make it not make the video not be 2 hours long. I could always edit it out, but I'm still doing it. All right. So now it's time to put the hardware on. So let's see what we're doing. I've only done one of these on the sling bag, so bear with me. Alright, so insert the end of the shorter strap into the hoop. And then turn down the end, turning end down 3 inches. Alright, so 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3. Alright, so like that. And then you're gonna stitch a square and then an X in the square. And then I'm just gonna pin that. Then on your longer edge, you're going to take your slider and place the longer edge on your slider. Like that. I have no idea what I'm doing, y'all. Okay. So I'm assuming I'm taking this other part of your parachute hook, putting your strap through it, and then placing that end through the slider. Right, charge this part to my head, not my heart, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And it says finish the edge of the strap by folding over a 1/2 inch and stitching it closed. Y'all, clearly I need more practice on that. But I think that's right though. Alright, so I think I'm supposed to take this little piece, fold it over, and sew it to this part of the bag. Right. To that part of the strap. Alright guys, so that is it. My non-tutorial. Alright, so a couple of things. The bag was an easy make. It wasn't bad at all. I don't know what stopped me the first time I tried to make this. It was years ago. But yeah, it's not a bad make at all. Definitely press while you're doing this. I didn't, because I was trying to make this video not super long, but I think it's still super long. I would definitely top stitch around the areas So basically each seam that I sew, I would press and top stitch it. So here, when you sew the top to the band and when you sew the gusset to the front, I would definitely top stitch to give it a much cleaner look. The strap slider, y'all saw me struggling with that. It actually works. It slides. There we go. It does work. Still not quite sure how I did it. And you can tell that in the video. But yeah, once I figure out the proper way to do this parachute clip, I will do a tutorial with a bag for it. But anywho, yeah. For my first try with it, or first and a half try, it's okay. Of course, there's some areas like this little area here that's kind of bulky, and I probably have some seams that are not straight, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, couple of mistakes. Had to pull out my seam ripper. The instructions are very clear though. The instructions are awesome. They're very clear. The pictures are very clear. There's only 5 pieces to the bag, so I think it will be a quick sew for you guys. Ha! Quick sew. So I think it will be fairly quick for you to make. But yeah, it was not bad at all. I don't know what stopped me the first time I did this. So yeah, so quick sew, $41.65. You should definitely give it a try. All right, so I feel bad saying if you like this video, click the thumbs up, but oh, give me some sympathy likes for this. Yeah, I'll take sympathy likes. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Any suggestions in the that you have about making bags like this and adding a parachute clip, any suggestions you have on other people who have videos on this, drop them in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in my next video.